Turn the music off. Welcome to Monday after, is this 2 weeks after MX of Nations? Or I think this is 2 weeks after MX of Nations. And is it MX of Nations or is it MX Des Nations? I'm going to have to ask our hidden celebrity that we have on the panel today. It is none other than the GQ cover of a magazine at one time. Even if it was AI, we have Trey Canard. What's up, man?
Hey, what's happening? AI before AI, I guess.
So Trey has never we've I've bugged him around the pits quite a bit, but I don't think he ever got like the sense of the humor. But I think maybe our humor aligns because I've seen your YouTube channel, dude, and truthfully, whenever I've tried to goon ride, I end up hurting myself. So it takes some massive skill to be able to goon ride and do it successfully. So sincere props.
I tell people all the time, man, you have to have been a goon at one point to actually goon ride. So the first, 5-6 years of riding, 3 to 9, my dad was a coach, and then he didn't really ride until he was in his 20s. So his riding skills was not that great. And I did a lot of air wheelies, so I've got a lot of practice.
Yeah, well, I mean, truthfully, you should have been the one rather than Dean Wilson to have like the old guy suit on and to ride around. I mean, what does Dino call it? Is it Earl? Is that what he calls
Grandpa,
it?
yeah,
Grandpa Earl.
Yeah,
Grandpa.
yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, there you go. There needs to be a collage between you and Earl. Maybe you in the muscle suit, and I think that would be something fun to.
Well, I have to publicly thank Trey, because when YouTube was just coming into what it is, my two sons and I, we would literally watch that goon ride with Trey between him, snapping his head and slapping the front fender. I mean, literally, we are in tears, and we would watch it over and over. And their mom would be like, "What are you laughing about?" And I'm like, "Watch this." And he goes through the whoops and he faces every one of them. And to your point, exactly, Johnny, you have to be so good to do that and not destroy yourself, between front wheel high on the jumps or then doing the old, da, 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 da. And I'm just like, so thank you, Trey. Hours of tears and laughter.
I know we're joking around about this, but was that a way of like disconnecting from just hammering out motos and trying to bring the fun back?
It was, you say you tried a goon ride before and it was really sketchy. It took a lot of practice, I one of my best friends growing up, Jimmy Albertson, we rode together from the time we were probably 9 and kind of a lot through my career, honestly. But we just grew up in an era like, we would like Terra Firma. I don't know if you remember Terra Firma 2, like McGrath and I think Lamson are like goon riding in Terra Firma 2. And then there was this old clip of like DV goon riding at like a gravel pit somewhere on Transworld. And so we just those guys are our heroes. So we just did what they did. And so it was kind of like at the end of every day, it was like a goon off, So like all the tricks, the fender slap, Jimmy does the like walking the dog thing or shaking the baby, whatever he calls it. It's like, it was every day. So it became less and less through my career, like I definitely did my motos and kind of did what I needed to do and went. But every time I did goon ride, I was like, I need to do that more often because it was so much fun, a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
So Trey, do you get credit for Jet doing the goon riding on the last lap of the Outdoor National?
I don't know, man. They goon rode a couple times, and it's like it makes me so proud. Just like,
absolutely, yeah.
It's cool. I think Tom Vielle did a fender slap over the finish line one race this year, and it's cool to see that because it really is fun, So to see like this younger crowd having fun and doing things like that. Deegan's done some air wheelies, and I love that, man, because it's really easy for it to be so serious. So
absolutely.
Yeah. cool to see. I don't do the endo though, man. I remember one time Jimmy was shooting a video at my house, and he was doing these endos, and I just was like, dude, honestly, you got to stop that. So I was like, I'm going to call the ambulance before the end of the day, because it was like this huge tabletop, and he is just like, I mean, from the beginning, I'm just waiting for it to go wrong. You know, the air relief, it goes wrong, you can kind of get out of that one. The endo, if you do that one wrong, you're in trouble. So I never really got into the endo too much, but wow.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a split personality with Ronnie Mack, dude. That's the old 500, and yeah, that bike alone is hard to ride, let alone try to goon ride on. You know, oh no, it's mainly the 250, but
yeah.
Yeah, when I saw Jet hit that, and he, you know, pushed his belly all the way over the seat and his tail end's hanging off the back fender, and I was like, oh my goodness, has he been talking with Trey? And then here we are getting a chance to talk to you about it today. I was like, oh, that is so apropos. And you know, Johnny, we were talking a little bit about this earlier. I want to personally congratulate Trey. You know, people don't realize how dry that spout, or how long that time period was since Ricky had won, that Honda didn't have a championship. Oh, so close, but never could seal the deal. And now look at you guys. I guess we're back to saying that the HRC program is the premium program. Would you agree, Johnny?
It's hard to beat, I mean, results, right?
Yeah.
And even as Nations, Hunter and Jet were the guys to beat. And I really like, were you part of the strategy at Nations too, as far as the gate picks go, where Hunter got a pick first and Jet's like, hey, I will get the shittier gate pick because I feel like I can come through the pack. But if you can start out front, you can kind of run away with it. Like I was kind of blown away with the strategy there. Yeah,
we talked about it. You know, I my role there is strange, you know, because I'm there representing Honda. So you know,
there's lots of Hondas there.
Yeah, Joe and you know, the boys, and then also, you know, I was part of the reason I was there was just trying to learn more about this new bike, where it's come from since last time I rode it, and so yeah. But talking with the boys before that, we just thought, you know, Hunter's a exceptional starter. Like, we know that if he gets that good start, or if he gets that good gate pick, like, there's a 99% chance he's going to get the whole shot. So I think that was the move. And then we know how quickly Jet moves through people, where Hunter typically, you know, he needs a few laps to kind of get going. And Hunter does really well if he, I mean, like you saw both motos, when he gets into that open track, pick your own lines, let it come to you kind of space, he's incredible. So yeah, that was kind of the thought behind it. But thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of years, including the years that I was racing, you know, that you know, maybe have a couple pieces to the puzzle, but not all. And it's a really unique time at Honda between our Japanese team, the engineers, our exceptional riders. You know, I'd argue that we have the best riders in the paddock. You know, so there's that. And then also the American side, the team is functioning so well. So all these puzzle pieces are coming together like so well right now. And our bike continues to elevate, and yeah, it's a unique time to be there, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it.
When is the Honda e-bike coming out?
Man, I wish I knew. There's the difficult part is racing it, you know, because Honda's strategy is a little bit different, I'd say, than Stark. Or Stark, they want to race gas engines, you know, like they want to say, hey, we're the better bike, you know, you need an electric bike. Where Honda's strategy is different. They want to create another category, so they want to see an E class. So we're, you know, when I raced in Japan, obviously that wasn't there. The information we got from that race was like exceptional. So I feel like we got what we wanted from that. They got what they wanted from that. So I don't know. The answer to your question though is I don't know, because the way that Honda is going about it, I think until there's like a proper place for it to race, development's going to be a little bit slow.
Hey, Trey, I don't know if you're at liberty to talk about it. How much time did Joe Shimoda put on the 450 before Designations? Because he rode that thing so well.
Yeah, there was not much. One day of testing. So, I mean, there was not a lot of, we changed a lot on the weekend, but there was some shims moving around and, you know, stuff like that. But, yeah, one day of testing, I think there was 5 total days of riding time. So
you can squawk this, Trey. Like I got messaged by a couple riders that the hunters weren't letting Joe ride with him. Is there any validity in that whatsoever, or because let me use it in a once you get a competitive advantage, it's hard to maintain a competitive advantage, So
yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Deegan thing last year, where there was like all this hype about the OzX or whatever that that he didn't get invited to, and it was because they were scared or whatever. But at the end of the day, it comes down to logistics. I mean, they had a deal with the promoter, and it just that didn't fit into the structure of what they were doing. And kind of the same with Joe this last year, that like they run a really well organized program at the dog pound. So there simply wasn't the proper amount of space for Joe to be there. No, it wasn't like a personal, we don't want him to get better. Like I feel like they've really embraced Joe, especially this last year. And, we work together well as a team. We talk about each other's bikes, talk about lines for each other. So, no, I don't think there was any of that. I think it had more to do with logistics.
Okay, well, thanks for clearing that up, because you know how the interwebs are, especially the moto community. They want to fight anybody that's on top, kind of a thing. It's all about like, how can we get this guy dethroned? Because I don't know, there's something about an underdog that just people. That's honestly okay. That's why I like Hunter so much. Is when I was there at the MX of Nations during time practice, I was like, dude, I want to see fucking Hunter just go 1-1. And I mean, he did, which was awesome. And I loved it, but he just seems like the underdog when it comes to comparison between him and Jet. So,
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think first off, we're so lucky to have those dudes working together. I mean, the testing that we do with them, and you see it even as they elevate, during the week. But there's times when we all three ride the same bike, and we're giving input on it. Sometimes if you're a rider and you're doing things by yourself, you get lost pretty easy. So to have that kind of, even when I'm not there and it's just Jet and Hunter, you're still getting such good information. It's such well-rounded information. So I guess I just say that as I say it. I don't think that Jet is who Jet is without Hunter. So I think you got to give a lot of credit to Hunter and what he said, and Darren and that. But I love Hunter, man. He's just the amount of adversity he faced when he first got here. He really paved the way for the family, and he's just a good person. Like I don't know, the whole family's great, but Hunter is there's a depth to him, as so many people that go through adversity and challenges kind of produce. Like he's really just a solid person. So and I think he's getting better. Like I really, if he can stay healthy 100%. This next year and we get the bike a little bit better for him, I think we've got it where Jet can work with it. But I think if we get a little bit better for Hunter and Supercross, I really look for him to have a great year.
Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is Hunter missing? Like for me, it seemed like it was a little bit of confidence that he could beat his brother, but it seems as if there's sort of a turning of a tide. Because, for you to say that he's such a good person. Like, experience shape your reality, and you've been through fucking hell and back. So that's quite a bit of a pat on the back for him. And if I'm putting you on the spot, how well do you see Hunter doing this year? I know you're on the same camp, but if I could get you to say who's coming out on top, is it Jet or is it Hunter in Supercross?
I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. And there's really good riders just across the board, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what Sexton does with a new team, and Eli, and so
that Cowie's is slow. He has no shot on that slow motorcycle.
I liked Anderson's thing. They gave me the fast one. That was pretty good.
That was
good.
awesome.
And I like your Trump answer, so
Yeah. But to answer your question, I mean, I think Jet still got the upper hand. He's rolling on confidence, man. Like, he is, and he's just an exceptional talent. He has an ability to not think, where guys like myself who have had a lot of adversity, and Jet has had his share this last year, but guys like myself, you start to think a lot, you start to overanalyze, and I sometimes see that with Hunter, where he analyzes a lot, where, Jet is kind of like, on TikTok, up until it's the main event time. And then he responds, situations happen, he responds, and is not as reactional, it's more of it's just happening, and that's, being in that type of state produces a racer athlete that is going on instinct, and that is a lot more efficient than having to think through situations. Coach Rob, you probably know more about that than me, but I think that Hunter, if he can stay healthy, he's going to slowly kind of rise up to that level, and I really think that Jet, he's got leverage with his body. He's really long, so we can, as people know, with the Honda, typically the rear likes to ride a little bit high, and so Jet can leverage that with his body. Where Hunter and like myself, it's really hard for us because we don't have that length, say, in the whoops. We can't get over that first whoop and keep the rear settled, where Jet, he's got this crazy long torso and really flexible hips, and so he has some gifts that way naturally. But I think if we can get the bike a little bit better, Hunter can maintain the kind of elevation that he has followed this year. I think that he's going to be on Jet's level, and I think Jet knows that. I mean, the practice track, they're one for one. It's like they're battling each other, so they know that, and no one believes in Hunter more than Jet. I remember when those guys first signed, and I was talking to Jet, who's still in Geico, and I was kind of like, I wasn't sure why they signed Hunter. I didn't know much about him or the family, and I remember Jet telling me, like, man, you just wait when Hunter's healthy, like he's gonna crush everybody. And all I'd really seen of Hunter was like some flashes of brilliance, but not a great performance so far in the U.S. And he was right, So I think, as you saw with SMX final, Jet was like nearly in tears because he won the championship. So I think he believes in Hunter, and I think he knows what Hunter's capable of, and I think there's no one he'd rather have beat him than his brother.
Hey, Trey.
That was a lot to say.
Excuse me. Trey, quick question for you. We've seen Jet jump on Hunter's bike, but we don't really see Hunter jump on Jet's bike. Is that just Jet having so much confidence in his brother setting up a bike? What do you think is the catalyst behind that?
Time, and typically Jet's more happy, just in general. Like, if someone's going to be searching for something, it's likely Hunter. So if you're at a race and like we're going to throw a Hail Mary here and make this change on a press day, typically it's with Hunter because he's the one more likely searching. And then it's just really good to have that feedback. and it's worked a couple of times, you know, that we've kind of found something. And like I said about Hunter being a little more analytical, you know, if Hunter tests, he's going to have a kind of a little more of a analysis and evaluation, where, you know, Jet's going to be like, you know, kicked over there and it doesn't turn there, and I don't like it, you know. So I'd say Hunter's probably, yeah, I think that's why you've seen it on Hunter's bike more, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, in general, they're
put,
very similar setup. So,
not to put you on the spot, but like Johnny said earlier, when you shake down a bike or you're shaking out a part or an add-on or something like that, who tends to like it better, Jet or Hunter, after you get it set up? Who are you more in line with?
Honestly, I think we're all relatively similar.
Okay.
Which makes my job so much easier, you know. Like,
sure.
When I first started with Ken, I mean, the way that I had set up my bike and the way that he set up his bike was like worlds apart. And so I really had to learn what he wanted. I think in general now, with Jet and Hunter, I think we all kind of search for the same things. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're pretty equal. You know, I've kind of had this philosophy, especially with production testing. You know, when I first started, there was kind of this idea that, you know, a fast guy can't really set up a bike, or if it's good for, you know, someone like me, it's probably not good for the general public. And I just am like, no, that's kind of BS. You know, a good bike is a good bike is a good bike. So I think that's still holds, you know. If something really is good, then they'll like it, you know.
So are you, I'm kind of feeding into what you're saying. You're having to learn how to set up a motorcycle for the factory guy that's under the rig, rather than like, hey, I know that this bike runs well because I can go faster on it. You're trying to like, okay, this is this guy's kind of riding technique. I need to try to figure out what's going to work well for him. And then you give it to them, and then say Hunter starts working on it, then Jet gets it. So is there like a you, Hunter, then final product goes to Jet, and then those are the race bikes there?
When it goes to them, they typically ride it together. You know, it's not like, you know, we'll work on it with Hunter. Typically, when they're working with them, it's like one guy rides it, the next guy rides it. And then you make the change. One guy rides it, the next guy rides it. And unless it's really bad, I mean, there's been a couple times where, you know, I've been down there, you're in your gear, you're ready to throw your goggles on, and then one of them just rides back to the shop because it's like, no, that one, not even close, you know? So, yeah, so typically that's how it works. You know, especially if we get to a part before then, we'll try to get as much information as we can about it, go down there, and then, you know, it'll kind of be like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you know, each time. So, I love it. I mean, it's kind of what we do in production testing as well. And I think it gives you a really like well-rounded, kind of idea of what you need as far as one guy's going to say it this way, another guy's going to say it this way. And I think it really helps you really narrow in on what exactly needs changed. But not many people can do it. I mean, when I first started doing it, it's so strange, you know, hopping on someone else's bike, and it's like all these other variables that throw into it. So I think it's
even lever changes is like wild.
Just in general, it's hard, you know, and it's just a different feel. So I think it's hard to replicate. And what allows them to do it is they're just very similar as far as what they run and what they like. So it's easier for them to do it. You know, if we were to have, you know, say when we had Sexton and Roxon, when they jumped on each other's bikes, it was like worlds apart. And so it just didn't really translate. So, so we're lucky in that sense, but it works really well.
Trey.
I think
Trey, how do you guys break up a year in regards to production, testing, and then setting up the bike for Jet and Hunter? If you take 52 weeks, is it you know, like right now during the off season, are you just doing nothing but, that's obviously an exaggeration, but majority of your time is spent just on the production side, or how does the year get partitioned off?
It's interesting because I wish it worked like, you know, if I had a ratio I could just use and just know that
Yeah.
was going to be the ratio. Like, I would love that. But unfortunately, it's just with development cycles, you know, Hana generally runs a 4-year cycle. You know, so every 2 years you start another development. But that's not how it's worked for the last few years. And so, you know, like this year, we've started on this new bike. You know, obviously we just launched the 25 this last year, and so there's been testing that way. And like I've got a Supercross test coming up, and then 2 weeks later I've got a production test. So it's not. I wish it worked in like some great ratio, but it just kind of depends on the needs. You know, like last year we had a really high need for a new bike and Supercross testing, and we were kind of in the middle of development cycles on production. So there was almost no production testing towards the end of last year. But there was a lot of Supercross testing, where this year it's kind of, I've got a little bit of 50-50, you know, this coming year. I'm sure it's going to be heavy again as we go into a new bike into next year.
I know not every day is the same, but like we had a client that he was a tire tester for one of the large tire manufacturers. And he said, literally, he was out there from sunrise to sunset, you know, ride a tire, come in, talk about it, write the paperwork. They're testing moisture in the morning. They're testing moisture in the evening. What kind of hours? I know you probably don't have 2 days that are ever the same, but what's your typical testing day look like? And how many days a week do you test?
It's all day. I mean, it's especially when you're searching. I mean, it's like it is all day. So I mean, it's kind of like till you can't see anymore. I mean, I remember we did a test at Lakewood this year to kind of prep. You know, we have some changes with GET and ETS, and so we really wanted to be ahead of that. I mean, I remember going around that track going like, this is like, I can't see, like, you know, like it is dark, you know, and that dirt is dark.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just pulled off because it's like, I'm not going to give you good information because I like literally can't even see what I'm riding.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, people ask me, do you still ride much? And my answer is always like, when I'm home, not really, maybe once a week. But when I'm testing, it's like I'm riding way more than I ever did when I raced. You know, it's like sometimes when they're done, I've got it, I keep going, you know, so.
And Johnny, the reason why that's so important is because the gentleman that I was working with, he was burning 8,000 calories a day. Just to put it in perspective, when you look at the top pros, Trey, correct me if I say anything out of context, a lot of the top pros doing what? Supercross, maybe 4 to 5 hours a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, give or take.
Yeah.
And you're out there from sunrise to sunset. I mean, literally, Johnny, 8,000 calories.
Well, you said something that I read that kind of resonated with me because, you know, it's hard to compare because we were such different riders. You know, like you were winning Supercrosses and I was barely qualifying. However, now that I'm older, you know, 35, my head feels like I can still go fast, but then I don't necessarily want to hit the ground fast anymore. So it's like, fuck it. I'm just going to go ride at like 80% and I'm just going to ride twice as long. You know, so when you're testing, do they require you to try to be at the Jet and Hunter lap times, or are you like really focusing in on what is happening with the motorcycle? So you are relatively at a slower pace, a lower heart rate, you know, but you're just a longer duration because you're out there testing so much.
Yeah, you know, I feel like you do have to ride a certain pace, you know, but I don't know that I've gotten slower. I haven't gotten any faster. So, you know, if there's something, you know, we'll say sometimes, you know, Darren will kind of get on me like, what do you do? You're not even going through the bumps hard, And I'm like, okay, all right, I'll just throw my helmet on and go do it, But I would say it's around, if I could put a percentage on it, 85, 90%. I've learned so much technically that as I'm riding, I'm trying to put together what's happening, so I can explain it well. And so, it's definitely not 100%. I would say I definitely have to back off to allow my brain to catch up. But I sometimes do it in sections, like I got to hammer this to see what it does. And so I, pull at the bootstraps for about 10 seconds, and then I'll kind of back it off a little bit. So, but, kind of like what I was mentioning with Jet and his instinct, riding on instinct. There's certain points when you're going fast enough that you've got to turn your brain off. And so I stay definitely below that so that I can use my brain and then rely on them for that, smash it into the bump, and we can watch it and see what's happening and help them have some dialogue about it.
Hey, Trey, with all the data collection systems that are on the bike, what percentage is coming from you and what's coming from the data collection systems?
Suspension wise, I'm nearly given up on suspension data. I mean, our sport has so many variables, right? So for road race, for example, the tracks are changing, they get rougher per year, the surface changes and that, but in general, the variables are minimal, where, especially in Florida, like that track's going to change minute by minute. So the data, there's some usefulness to it, but to me, it's like, I would way rather have, the old horse whisperer that, snaps twice and, claps and then makes some funny sound and the horse responds than, some technical guy that's gonna, look at these numbers, because I really don't think it works quite like people think in our sport, suspension wise. The data, the logger, as far as air, fuel, our ECUs, that information is used a lot, and I would say it's 50%, because I'll go, hey, it's doing this in that corner. They'll go to the Landa and they'll run back through the lap, and then they'll say, oh, okay, yeah, we see it right here. We think we can fix it and we can do that. So it works hand in hand that way. The suspension data, I'm like, unless there's some new technology that kind of comes out and makes it better, I'm nearly think it's useless.
Okay. I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, and you can just tell me if I'm full of bullshit, Trey. I've spent hours, right, with what I do on my YouTube channel with analyzing lines on stuff, and those Honda bikes, dude, for some reason, they just look so plush. They look so soft and so fast. So have you guys gone way in one direction? Because when I've looked at bikes like Tomax, they just seem so rigid and stiff versus the complete 180 of what those Honda bikes are doing.
Yeah, it's a really technical question, and I don't think people really understand it, because, for instance, with the 25 machine, we talked a lot about rigidity balance and making the bike stiffer, which made it feel softer. And so it's like, I wish it was easy as just, hey, we have this compression stack and this rebound stack, but it's just not, man. It's
so you have some secret sauce, secret algorithm with whatever the frame, the swing arm, everything is just kind of all working together to.
It's the technical term is rigidity balance, so that's the word, the balance is the key word, and it's if you look at a motorcycle as a whole, there's all these different hot spots as far as where the force is moving through. And so putting the force in the right place is the most important thing. As far as the suspension is concerned, I do think that we are in a different area than most people. And I don't know if some of that, when I first started working with Jet and Hunter, they were like very much, we need a stiff fork. We want the bike, kind of flat, and that's changed. And I think I owe a lot of my feel to Ken Roxon, because I was certainly in that same camp, as far as a lot of compression, needs rebound, I need the thing to stay like this and just hammer stuff and jackhammer the bumps. And Kenny was like on the other side of the world for me as far as rebound setting. So I think we owe a lot to Ken as far as what we learned in that time on the rebound side, because I think we're probably way faster rebound than most people. And I think that when you look at like the frequency of bump, right? If your wheel is not following that bump, it's going to give a harsh look and a harsh feel, because your suspension's kind of constantly not moving at a certain point. And so I think our bike follows the frequency bumps really, really good. The wheel is really connected to the ground. We're on the softer side. I see it sometimes, like when in the beginning of the season when I saw Tomac battling Jet and Hunter, he would just smash through things where our guys had to be a little bit smarter about it. But for me, I would way rather have a softer bike than have to deal with how stiff something is. I think it, more times than not, at the end of the important parts of your motos, you're going to be looking to absorb bumps and find longevity and endurance rather than smashing through something. And so I think the boys have developed that feel, like they want that. And to me, that it's better. I don't know. I like it better. So that's my preference.
Well, it's a totally different riding technique. When you compare the two, you got Tomac heavy on the clutch, comes in, smashes, blows stuff up, and goes, where Jet comes in and it almost sounds like he's going to kill the motorcycle, because it's just this and then you put the lap times together and you're like, holy fuck, man, this guy's going quite a bit faster. And I'm sure he's saving energy, because it's not this just inertia battle there. But dude, looking at that stuff, like I almost contributed to like the telemetry on like the trophy trucks, where it's like auto analyzing what's going on. And like you see a trophy truck do 120 in the desert through these whoops, and just what you said with the wheel pretty much like follows it, like never leaves the ground. It goes all the way down and then back up on top of the whoop and all the way down. Like, yeah, there is no skipping around. So whatever you guys are doing, don't tell me, and don't be very vague, because that's your guys' secret sauce for sure. And I'm sure,
Hey, Johnny,
people have to owe a lot to Trey for coming up with that, because he just basically said that, yeah, computers are bullshit. We just got to do it by feel. And I'm out there 80 hours a week making sure that this wheel is sucked to the ground. So,
Hey, Johnny, here's
get
something
a
for
bonus.
Trey. Here's something for Trey. Trey, how difficult is it toggling back and forth from the 450 to the 250, trying to help Joe get his bike set up? Because to say that Joe catapulted forward this year would be the understatement of the year. How difficult is that?
The days where I do it on the same day is like so difficult,
Yeah.
And I won't do it on Supercross. I will not do 250, 450 same day on Supercross. Just you lose that depth perception and all that. But outdoors, I do it frequently, and that's so hard. But I love it because you learn something from each piece, And Joe, I would say, is different than the boys. I think he's, when Joe first came to the team, we said, hey, here's a championship winning motorcycle, and go do your thing. And it didn't work, like he really struggled. And I think we struggled to see his needs. I think this year we allowed him the opportunity to do what he wanted, and I think just by natural feel, like he's kind of come more towards what Jet and Hunter like towards the end of the series, even at Nations, like the rebound adjuster was coming out, like he was. I think that feel, like, I just think our bike likes it. The Honda in general likes that fast rebound. But I feel like he is evolved towards that way. But to answer your question, yeah, it's hard, but I learn a lot. I learn so much. For example, production testing, we ride all the other manufacturers' bikes. And I love that process because I take something from it every single time, so
Wait, so you guys, I'm interrupting here, so forgive my, yeah, I'm sorry. Wait, you ride all the other bikes, all the other colors, and then take that feedback?
Yeah, and I think that's probably common practice between the manufacturers. Like
Yeah. I always thought it was
and we
like,
do it.
sorry, Trey, you got me thinking, so I'll go.
Oh, yeah, no, you're good. I think it's common practice, and we do it to see where we stand a lot. Like for some reason the magazine shootouts are very important to these brands. I kind of see that a lot of them are probably rigged, and the stuff they're getting on the backside and the special treatment and stuff, and it's probably swaying a lot of that. But it's really important to them. They want to produce a bike that they believe can win shootouts because they believe that translates to sales, and they just they take a lot of pride in being the best bike. So I think part of it is just comparison, but I really use it and say, hey, this bike did that over there, that bike did that over there. I don't even want to ride that one. Like, we don't even need that one. Don't bring it tomorrow.
It's the Suzuki. It's okay. You don't have to say it.
You just didn't want to hit the Kickstarter.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't had a Suzuki because they haven't made any changes in so long. So,
bring up the notes from 1999. Okay, we're good. We're good. No, that's wild to me because I know, like, okay, this is way back when Kenny came out here to Colorado for the Motocross of Nations for Lakewood. I don't even know when, but I had my 450 at the time, and I was like, hey, Kenny, he was on his RMZ 250, and we were out at Monk's track, and it's just this big sand track, and he was 4 seconds a lap faster than I was. And I was like, dude, could you ride my 450 real quick? Just please. And he was like, nope, can't. This was a 17-year-old Kenny, and he just was like, I can't, because I'm obligated to with Suzuki. I could lose my ride if I do that. And so they're moving forward. I just was kind of like, guys can't ride other bikes, but it seems like a decent loophole where they'll have the tester go test all the other bikes, then they can bring that information back. And the factory guys, they're not allowed to ride the other bikes, but if they bring the information from you, then okay, their bike's just better. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that before, but you said it's pretty standard from everyone. It just maybe just not as common knowledge. So
yeah, it's common practice. I mean, all the other. I mean, I've talked to the Yamaha development team, and they're like, hey, we were on your bike this week. We like this, we like that. In years past, we're like, we don't even ride your bike. So,
even if you do, just say it just to like get in their head. Like, yeah, your bike sucks,
yeah, get in their head a little bit.
How do you ride that thing?
I think there's a level of respect between all the manufacturers that say, hey, we respect what you're doing, and it's kind of, it's flattering, to know that people ride your bike and like certain things about it, or they spend more time on your bike or whatever. So, but I think it's helpful. I mean, I've had us requested that Mike Byrne be a part of our time production testing, and I think that's been really helpful too. Just he's with Jet and Hunter a lot in Florida, and just got incredible feel, and just his experience setting up different bikes. Just a super knowledgeable guy, and he's always telling me, like, I'm pretty polite, and even if I don't like something, I'll oftentimes find a kind way to say it. And the Australian in him, he's very like, no, that was crap, like. So I appreciate that, but just even him, riding the different bikes, he's like, yeah, I like this about that. And I think it's helpful to have your test riders do that. Obviously, Jet and Hunter can't, I don't even know that I'm supposed to be saying that I do, but I think it's common practice.
Yeah, well, I don't think that there's any implications whatsoever, because it's not like, for the factory guy, sure, but for that's your job, right? You know?
So Trey, I'm going to put you on the spot once again. I don't think there's anybody watching this live or watching it as a recording. You're a very polite individual, but when you put your helmet on, you were an incredibly competitive individual. You weren't afraid to rub elbows. You weren't afraid to, rubbings, racing. And I thought you did such a great job of it, because don't mistake aggressive racing as being unkind, or it's never personal. It's just racing. Did you rub off on Shimoda, since he was the first guy that put the elbow in on Hayden Deegan and said, you know what, I'm not going to take this laying down? It just seemed like you had some level of rubbing off on Joe. Any validity to that by chance, just from an outsider looking in?
All I tried to do on that weekend was just treat it like a totally normal weekend. And I think that was the goal of the whole team. So I think Joe, man, he handled it so well. And maybe it was that we kept the environment so light that he was able to do that. As a coach, the performance anxiety that comes with that scenario, even without all the crazy riding, like there's like, you show up the day before and you're already like nearly in fight or flight, so I think we did a good job of keeping that environment light and fun and normal, and allowed him to kind of stay in that normal headspace. But it was all Joe. I mean, I was so surprised, dude. I'd say he was more nervous at Motocross of Nations. Like, I remember talking to Ben, his mechanic. I'm like, dude, he's nervous today. Like, I didn't get that same sense of, especially in the qualifying day. Like, I didn't get that same sense of like, just calmness. In Vegas, he was just calm and funny. Like, the things he was saying were just hilarious. Like, the whole thing, I don't speak good English. Like, there were so many comments that didn't get recorded in that day. Like, Deegan was yelling at him on the starting line, oh, you're going down, like all this stuff. And he just said, like, dude, chill, like, relax. And I don't know, he was all time in that day, and I'm so happy for him. And I hope that he can take that same momentum and move into next year, because I think he'll be a champion if he can maintain that.
What was impressive, though, was earlier in the year, I don't know why it seared in my mind, that left-hander when Joe came in and he gave the nudge to Deegan earlier in the year, kind of like it just validated that he wasn't afraid of anybody. Deegan is let's just say he's the top of the pedestal in that 250 class. And correct me if I'm wrong, Johnny, you're good on the the statistics side of it, but Joe just went in there and just let him know, I'm not afraid of you. And again, Trey, that's why it reminded me so much of yourself. It wasn't a dirty move. It was just like, I'm not afraid of you, and I'm here to race, and it'll be a race to the finish. Obviously, we didn't know it'd go literally to the last race of the year and all the antics that go with it. But I was just really impressed that Joe, and that's why I was really curious to get your feedback, because it seemed like this year Joe had the breakout year. And knowing that you've been so involved with the development of both bikes, I think, obviously Hunter and Jet get the majority of the limelight of the work that you've done, but seeing the subtlety and the improvement on that 250 with Joe, whether it's him getting comfortable with the bike, him comfortable with the whole program. Again, mad props to you being able to build three guys that were the cream of the crop all year long. It wasn't like it was, when you look at it even from a consistency standpoint, boy, that's hard to get that consistency established. And then obviously the consistency creates momentum. The momentum creates confidence. Like you said earlier, Jet's riding high on the confidence train for sure. But yeah, I just couldn't help but wonder how much of an influence you have on that, because Joe is not a big trash talker, but
Yeah.
he went in there and showed that he's not afraid to rub elbows with the supposedly the best guy in the class. And it so reminded me of yourself, because you look at all the greats, including yourself, that you raced against. That's no easy task for sure. So just curious.
Yeah, I think it says a lot to do with the team. I mean, we've just got so many incredible guys, so many good positions. Like I try to go through and name each one, but I mean, there's just every single person on the team is pulling in the same direction, and it just creates I mean, like mentally how important that environment is for performance. You can sense that. When something's not working together, you can sense that, and it affects you, So I just think that the whole team is performing well and pulling in the same directions. That's a huge thing. I was surprised with Joe, honestly. I mean, I don't know. Speaking of myself, man, I rode a lot with my heart, not so much with my head. And so I think that I didn't think about dudes, I didn't think, hey, that's Chad Reed. I've been watching him since I was 12, or hey, that's James Stewart, like I didn't think too much about that. I just thought, hey, that guy's in front of me and I want to beat him, I wish I would have used my head a little bit more, because I think I would have probably put myself in a little fewer difficult situations and probably got hurt less. But I think Joe had a great mix of that this year, of kind of like, he rode with his heart a lot. He had so much heart in so many different situations. I think about Millville this year, the second moto, he lost his rear brake. He still got, a great points paying position where, a guy that doesn't ride with heart just pulls off in that moment. So I think Joe showed us in the world that he has a lot of heart, in it, and he can use that,
Did you help him get over his fear of the hand guards? Because talking with his mechanic, he was like, he hates hand guards, so he's only won in the run because of breaking his finger. And again, that was such a, he might have won the championship if it wasn't for that incident, because he had so much momentum. And then that's where I'm like, still, I'm up on the whole, there should be radios where the GPS on the bikes, you can communicate only between that straightaway right there. Get rid of the pit boards. That would have never happened. There's been plenty of incidents where pit boards hit guys. But then come Motocross of Nations, he's got both hand guards back on and a few of the 250 motocross rounds. And so I thought it was interesting that, I wonder if you helped him up, like, just don't even look at the hand guards. Don't even look at the hand guards.
No, one thing I love about Joe is he's Japanese, man. And that sounds stupid to say, but he's obviously Japanese. But that Japanese in him has not left, like, at all. Like, he's been here so long, but he is Japanese to the T. And so, I mean, there's certain things that I just, as a thing about tear-offs where he only runs like 7 or something. And I talked to Ben about it, and like, what? Dude, he blows through those the first lap of an outdoor, like he needs more. But that's just Joe, man. I just, like, you got to let him do his thing. And he's come to certain conclusions on his own. And, but I love the fact that he's got his ways, and he's kind of like in them, but I'd say he's been more coachable this year. I think he trusts us more, and that allows him to be more coachable. But man, I got to give him a lot of credit, because he's.
Do you guys have a nickname for him then, with his Japanese heritage?
We started the wasabi thing, maybe. I think it was last year, SMX. Joe he's usually the first practice. He's like, he won't do all, sometimes he won't do all the jumps, and he'll really takes his time to kind of get in things. And I said something like, man, Joe is spicy today. because he was like, the first practice, he was going hard and scrubbing, and Lars said like, yeah, it's kind of like wasabi Joe. So that's kind of stuck around and made it onto the broadcast. That was kind of funny. So yeah, Joseph, Joe. I mean, he's got a lot of names, like, but yeah, I would say we call him, yeah, Joseph. I don't know, Joe, that kind of thing. It's but the wasabi thing was pretty funny.
Trey, one question from the fans. You know, Motor Fever 1 says that if you didn't break your rotator cuff and your collarbone in 2017, would you have stayed with KTM and kept racing longer?
I think so. Yeah, probably so. I mean, tearing my rotator cuff at Anaheim 1 was pretty hard, you know. And I made the mistake of continuing to try to race. People always said I came back fast from my injuries, but it was because I was always healthy, you know. I rarely rode through injuries, you know. Like 2016, 17, I rode through more injuries than I did in my whole career, because typically if I was hurt, I got healthy, came back 100%. And in 2017, I think I felt the urgency. I was in a 1-year deal. The insecurity of, is this the end? I need to just push through and toughen up. And, you know, the rotator cuff didn't require surgery. So it was kind of like this gray area. Yeah, I think if I would have had a good year, you know, Dungy was out that year. Obviously, I think I probably would have signed another deal with them. But yeah, it was a hard year, man. That was really hard. I really struggled kind of gelling with that team, kind of the scenario that was in play with 3 riders and those guys working with Alden, and I wasn't, and it was a strange dynamic.
Why weren't you working with Alden? Personal choice?
I don't know.
Or?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was very interesting in the beginning. It was like, even in the contract talks, it was like, hey, we don't allow people to ride for the team unless they work at Alden. I was kind of at a desperate situation. I didn't have much on the table. You know, I was like, hey, you know, whatever I got to do, I got to do. And then there was a certain point where it was like, hey, we're going to offer you a deal, but you can't work with Alden. It was never really got like a full straight answer as to why that was. You know, Alden was really nice to me and kind and all those things, but I never really got a great explanation. You know, there was kind of the talk of like, oh, he only works with a couple people so that everyone gets the attention. And then, you know, that same year he had like 5 or 6 guys as he was kind of overseeing. So it was strange. And for me, it kind of created a strange environment, just because everyone was working with him and I was kind of on the side not. And so, yeah, it was strange, but I think had I got momentum and gained success and did well on that bike, I think I could have had all the tools I needed to make it work. I just had a really hard year, and it broke me. You know, it really did. I think I had more in the tank in my career, but you know, that year just really, it put the nail in the coffin for me.
Was it more mental, or was it just? It sounds like there was a lot going on, you know. So sensitive topic, right? But even the normal consumer kind of goes through it when eventually enough is enough. Again, like from my perspective, I thought I was going to be the dude riding the 50 senior class, you know, like I was just always going to just love racing. And then come 26 years old, it was kind of ripped from me. And then it's never really rekindled. So,
yeah, it was, the big ones were hard, you know, my back and femurs and all those things. But the ones in 17 were just like, I felt really strong coming into the season in 17. I was going fast. I felt comfortable. And it was like the second lap of practice. And we had an abbreviated practice due to rain. And, you know, it was just kind of like, go get the sections. And I hit something the way that I hit it 400 times as I learned to track before, and it just wasn't enough. And I just cased this jump the perfect way where I just got all frame, and it just pitched me, and I, you know, it was a bad crash, but I got up thinking, okay, I'm okay. And then I like go to move my shoulder, and it like won't, you know, go past a certain point. And it's like, that's hard, you know, because I know that like, that's not just going to go away. It's not like I'm just going to wake up Monday morning and be able to train. So that was hard. And then I broke my collarbone that year, and it was just all these, like, it was like death by 1,000 cuts, you know, that broke my resilience. And so I needed that. I needed to be done. I don't think moving forward I could have just, because at some point you gotta hop on the bike and believe everything's gonna be good.
Mm-hmm.
When you start having all these things in the back of your head, and you start thinking so much, then that's when I knew it was time to be done. I was racing Redbud thinking about everything. And I'm like, dude, this is scary. You know, I'm thinking so much that I'm not present. I'm not doing what I need to be doing. And then I had a bike malfunction the next week, had one of my worst concussions. And then at that point I was like, no, that's it.
Just dude, more sensitive topic. So tell me to pound sand if I bring up stuff that's like you don't want to rehash. Was this easier to get over because it was not a mistake on your end? You know, like it just was bad luck when Ryan Morales landed on you. I remember watching it and just was in disbelief because of just how well you were riding. And yeah.
Honestly, I don't think I ever got over it. You know, I found ways to cope, you know, but I don't think I was really truly ever the same rider after that. You know, I still rode hard, but there was a sense of fear that I had after that was, and I think being that there was nothing that I could do about it was almost worse. You know, it was like, you know, when you analyze a crash or something, I mean, you know, I'm watching this video, like, well, I don't know what I really could have done a whole lot different other than, you know, I'm trying to pull off the track at some point, but I'm kind of like stuck. And so it's almost harder because I'm like, I was doing the cautious right thing, and it's like a bomb got dropped. So that was hard for me. You know, it was a scary injury, just spinal injury, all those things. But I mean, there's not a time that I doubled or triple after that I didn't, you know, do a huge 180, like what's coming for me, you know? So yeah, if there's one thing that I wish I could have seen, I wish I could have, wish I could have experienced my career without that injury. I think it would have been different, but it was one of the best personal growth things that I went through. But I never raced another race the same, I think, after that injury. You know, there's I think there's a misconception that I kind of like came back and that was just in the past and I moved forward full steam ahead. And that just wasn't the case. I mean, it was the whole next year I was really hard just to even line up on the gate. So, yeah, that whole PTSD thing, I talked to, when I was on Pulp, Levi Kitchen was on, and he was talking about his crash at Daytona, and it made me think, you know, like I wasn't the only one that has these kind of like almost PTSD kind of moments. It's a real thing, and I think it's probably easy to see riders in the pits, and they're cracking jokes and having fun, and but it sits in the back of your head. I mean, it's really hard. That's why I think it's so impressive what Ken's done, and I know it sits in the back of his head. But he's kind of reinvented himself post this horrible crash. So it's hard. I guess to say it's really hard, and I don't think that I really ever kind of came out the other side of that unscathed.
It's, there's that saying of success is when preparation meets opportunity. And when I look at somebody like yourself, yes, you've had success. You've had massive amounts of success. And so don't take what I'm saying as like way too literal. I'm just saying that we could have, I'm heartbroken when I see stuff like that, because I expected you to win a 450 Supercross championship, at least one. Like you had so much adversity that was not talent based. It was just fucking bad luck, that kind of took you out of the game. And then I look at somebody like Dungey, who was never really the fastest guy, but he ended up being really lucky at times, and that's just how it was. Like, I considered you more talented and faster, but how many times do you have to get up from getting knocked down, kind of a thing?
And Rob, like the work it takes to build a certain base is really hard, man. It's like, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have to continually hit this reset button, taking 10 weeks off, like
Mm-hmm.
to then again start and rebuild a base. It's like, that's one of I wish I could have raced my career and not had to constantly rebuild, because I think I would have been, physically speaking, like endurance wise, strength wise, I think I would have been a far superior athlete than I was, not to mention all the stuff you put in your body every time you have surgeries. So I wish I could have seen that. I wish I could have seen the riding progress too. I think that's one of the reasons Ryan Dungey was so good. It's because he strung so many years together of just consistency. I don't think it was ever about the coach, as far as, he's always seen as a very fit guy. I think he's got some great natural gifts physically, but that time that he strung together of being healthy, it just, to me, I really wish I could have had that.
Well, Rob, you helped Dungey right
right
at the very beginning.
What's that?
Oh, sorry. I was just, Coach helped Dungey like right at the beginning of his career with help building that base.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I was going to say with Trey, and this is a very morbid comment, but we are looking back in hindsight, and hindsight's always 20/20. The fact that Trey Canard can walk is a foundation of his strength and his fitness and his flexibility, good eating, dedication, going back to Shannon Nide. And then I apologize, Trey, I don't remember your CTS coach. Everybody gets credit for that, putting it together. But at the end of the day, Trey put in the sweat equity. And we watch that video and we all cringe, because obviously Trey doesn't know it's coming. And then you watch him. We all know that. And here we are talking to Trey, who's one of the best testing riders that exists right now, with one of the most successful programs. What is that? Almost 20 years later, is a testimony to the strength and the flexibility of Trey, even getting up and walking to this day. And again, I hate to even talk about it, but when you watch that video, you can't help but piece those together. So it's selfish for me because it's my wheelhouse, but I use this as an illustration all the time. You never know what's coming up from behind. And when it does hit, like you said, Trey, a bomb went off. Nothing that you did wrong, nothing that you could have anticipated, but yet here we are talking about, and you said it yourself, it's foundation on top of foundation on top of foundation, which builds durability. The more laps you put in, now your athletic maturity goes up, but it always stems with athletic durability. So I think it's amazing that you're out doing what you're doing. Like we said earlier, whether it's the success that Hunter and Jet have had, or whether it's the progression that we've seen with Jet just in the last year, 2025 is an incredibly symbolic year for Trey Canard, in my biased opinion. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I'm grateful, like part of that crash was like, dude, that's like worst nightmare scenario, I mean, that could have easily been a fatality, like I hate to go that morbid, but I mean the force
Mhm.
that hit was like incredible. So I'm just so grateful to be here today. And one of the things I am grateful about for that moment is there was a sense of between that and then losing my dad. It's like there's a reality to life that kind of wakes you up. Kind of feel like, wow, this whole thing's pretty big gift. It's a gift to like
Amen.
breathe through your lungs and walk on your feet. And so I do appreciate that about that whole thing because I really think it woke me up in that sense. Oh
When
man,
when you saw this, Canard, from last weekend, what went through your head with
uh, I
Jack?
didn't see that. Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
see that.
this was at the Australian Supercross. I think this was round 2 of practice, and I think he broke his vertebrae and 2 broken shoulders, but he's sitting there standing afterwards.
Yeah, crazy.
But I mean, that's similar.
Well, and again, like Trey said, it's a little bit morbid to talk about, but watch when the bike comes down, his chest hits the bike, and that's what keeps him from going any further and literally tacoing himself. Again, it's very disgusting, but the bike is what kept him from blowing his vertebrae out. Because if you look at him, he lands on the tank, and that's what keeps him from continuing to go downward, which would have
Is
just.
that what happened to you, Trey? Or
Yeah, if you look at the video or even have a great picture, right where I broke my back was actually where the tire was like going in that force of like Coach Rob saying, my helmet, and I know there's bad ideas about neck braces. My neck brace like really saved my life in that moment. I mean, his linkage was like on my neck, so so that part of me was all good, like Coach Rob saying, there was like some resistance that kept it from fully extending. Where I did break my back was where the tire hit and then torsioned my spine that way. So so I don't know. I wasn't wearing great back protection. Like I was wearing a protection, but I don't think it was probably optimal. I don't think it probably went low enough as well. But yeah, man, it's incredible. I don't know what the answer is. There's got to be a good answer, but I think that's
Which vertebrae did you break, Trey? Which vertebrae did you break?
T11 was burst fractured, and into the spinal cord. 11 and 12 were a smaller burst fracture, but not they didn't have to reconstruct anything.
And do you have any physical limitations with that? I mean, obviously a lot of rehab and strength and flexibility.
Yeah, my right leg is not great. If I were to do like a single leg deadlift or something, my right side is always going to have instability to it, and that's gotten better for sure. But in the beginning, it was really like, I don't know, I lost a lot of mass in my right leg. I don't, just neurologically, it just doesn't fire all the way. And that never really limited me, I don't think. But still to this day, I don't do a lot of heavy lifting. It's mainly kettlebell stuff. Just, back squatting isn't great for my spine, things like that. So,
yeah.
I'll do a single leg deadlift kettlebells, and the right side is always, I've really got to be intentional about firing everything to make sure that the stability stays. So that was probably the biggest thing. I had some numbness and vague feeling in my right leg that was really bad in the beginning, but that part came back.
What was the motivation to continue after that? Like, because you and Kenny, with those, lack of a better word, catastrophic crashes, what brought you back? Because I mean, you were open about PTSD, about the stuff. Yeah, what like, it's a testament that you're even riding a motorcycle today, dude, with everything that you've been through. So even if it's just at the practice track, but like, you were literally putting, you're back on something that almost killed you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I think I don't know. I think there's something in us, like whether that's God given or just environmental or what. But when you have a skill for something, it seems like a bigger ways to not use that. I'm really wrestling with my son racing. I mean, and my wife is like especially wrestling with that because she was in the middle of all of everything everyone saw. So, I've tried to explain to her like, hey, amateur racing is like, especially locally, is a lot different than going to a supercross.
Yeah.
She didn't know anything about the sport, and so that's her experience with it. But I see my son ride a bicycle, and it's crazy, man. Like, I bought him this kind of, I don't know, like roller kind of thing for his birthday. He wanted a ramp, and he's a little bit of a sender, so I don't want to buy him too much of a ramp, but he's hitting this thing. He wanted to hit it in the dark the moment he got it. So I like lit up the backyard a little bit, and he hits it, and it's like his elbows are up, and he's like soaking the bike up into his body. And so I think there's a certain gift there, right? And I think for me to not use that, it's like almost a waste, and so I think that's a privilege. It's a huge privilege to me, like when you have a gift and then you're able to use it. Some people just their circumstances don't allow them to use a certain particular gift that they have. And so yeah, I feel like, man, it's a huge blessing to have a gift, and I want to continue to use it, but yeah, it's I don't know. I think a lot of us don't know anything else, so it's hard. I mean, I think it's why a lot of us struggle when we retire. It's because we've known one thing basically since infancy. So you don't.
And
know
Trey,
how
would you agree or disagree? And I know you mentioned you had the one mechanical where you cased it, and obviously it tore your shoulder up, but the most significant injuries you've had were not faults of your own. Do you think that like when you're on the testing track, you're not worried about somebody jumping on the top of you?
Yeah. I think the first time I broke my femur, even it was at Washougal. I was in third place. I was like 30 seconds behind the two Ryans, but I was like 40 seconds ahead of Mehdi, who was in fourth, and one lap to go. At Washougal, you do the finish, you kind of go left, right, and then you do a hard 180 into another hard 180. Cruising through there, I mean, it's not a fast section. And a lapper, does the thing where they like look for you and they try to veer out of your way, but he went straight, just sawed my front end off. And so at that, it's like, 9 times out of 10, that's just a fall over, you try to get back up and go. That time, I broke my femur. So yeah, I think going through those types of things, there's a certain element of like, hey, I can't control all scenarios, but there are certain things I can control. And I've really tried to put that into practice in the last 5 years, is to say, hey, I don't have to hit that rhythm section to feel this, like limiting the risk that way,
So kind of like,
hey, I'm 5 seconds off the pace today. I'm going to be okay with that. Like I can still do my job, do it well. Where when you're racing, it's like even the things that are within your control, you kind of push the limits. So,
yeah. So you seem very religious, Trey. And, I hear terms of grateful, and I think it's your perspective that has enabled you to push through a lot of these things. And just what you just said, it reminded me of like the serenity prayer, control the things you can't, let go of the things you can't, and then have the courage to know the difference. So is that something that you somewhat live by in, your day to day, or just, is it been experience from just the shit that you've gone through in your life that has came you to a realization of just, there's more good than bad through all of this?
Yeah, my faith has been a part of my whole life. You know, I grew up in the Bible Belt, so you know, that's just what you did. You know, grew up in a small town, and the whole place was shut down on Sundays. You know, that's just the way of life in the Bible Belt. But I think through my experiences, my faith became less of this is what we do, and more personal, I guess. I saw the value in it. You know, it's like when you realize like that. You know, this is not it. You know, like all of this is great and awesome and enjoyable and all those things. But there's more to it. There's more value to it. To me, that is an amazing perspective switch, because I think it opens you to see other people and to be less self-centered. I mean, that's a hard thing to not be self-centered. You know, especially if you're driven. So I think my experiences, the difficult experiences, definitely shaped my faith and solidified it. I think I live it differently, you know. I think earlier in my career I was very I don't know, outspoken, but I felt like that was the right thing to do. I think now I really just focus on living it, and you know, to me, that's the most valuable thing you can do if you believe in something, is to live it and let your life be the evidence of that. And so, I mean, that's my goal anyway. I know I kind of miss it sometimes, but yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of my life. I mean, that's the center of my life, I would say.
Well, there's also another saying that like a man needs three things in life. You know, he needs someone to compare himself to. He needs someone to motivate him, you know, a mentor, and then he needs somebody to teach. And I feel like as we get older, almost like this YouTube channel with analyzing stuff, I get more kick out of it from having somebody come up and saying that like I've helped their writing rather than any recognition I got on my own writing, which is kind of wild to me. Like it feels like giving back. And so you being a test rider for Honda and seeing them win the championship, and it's been so long since Honda's gotten anything. I mean, there's got to be an emotion of just, hey, I helped do this, you know, like I'm giving back. And that's got to be explosive for you, Trey.
Yeah, I my personality is not the type that kind of likes attention, you know. Like people say like, "Hey, you know, you're great." It makes me more uncomfortable than it does. It doesn't, like, I don't know. I have a hard time with it, you know. So I almost like the role I'm in now better because I get to see people live their dreams, you know, and that is like you're saying, it's almost equal to, if not better than pursuing your own dreams. So there's a sense of community in that too. You know, I think we're like made for that kind of connection with people. You know, racing is a pretty selfish endeavor at the end of the day. Like, and you kind of have to be, you know, like Coach Rob, you know, those disciplines, they come in the way of relationships sometimes, you know. You know, if you're taking your sleep cycle seriously, it's like, hey, we're going to the movies. No, sorry guys, I'm going to bed, you know. Hey, we're going to get ice cream. Like, hey, I'll go, but I'm going to drink, you know, water or whatever, you know. It's like, so it is a pretty selfish endeavor where, you know, what I'm doing now, it's like, it's very much about like, how do you build the next guy up, and how do you contribute to a team, and I really enjoy that. Like, it's a lot of fun.
Hey, Johnny, I want to throw something in here, and I know it's going to embarrass Trey, but I just feel compelled to say it. The thing that impresses me the most about Trey is he has every reason to be spiteful. He's lost his racing career to injuries that were no fault of his own, lost his father in a tragic accident at the prime of his career. The list goes on, and here's Trey, grateful, giving back, continues to give back, enjoys giving back. I don't know I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. I'll just share my thoughts. He's got every reason in the world to be a pretty spiteful, angry individual. And Trey, just to see what you have done through your career, like you said, faith has always been at the epicenter of your entire life. You've always declared it early, but like you said, you've lived it, you've demonstrated it. And I think, like, even here in today's conversation, knowing the things that we as fans of the sport, we've seen what you've endured. Nobody can imagine losing their dad in a tragic accident like that, especially when you're in your prime. And then, like you said, freak accidents, whether it's being landed on or getting your front wheels sawed off. And then noticing, like you said, you start to work in a moto fear with a 1-year contract, and it's easy to start saying, why me? And I just want to say, man, you are the epitome of a champion inside and out. And it's really cool to have you on the show today, and to hear the things and the people that you've influenced. We all get to see and enjoy Factory Honda this year, but knowing that you are in that mix, it's mad props to you, buddy. You and your bride both. I know you guys have been through a lot over the last 20 years, but very impressive to sit here and talk to you. Very cool.
I appreciate it, man. It's an honor, and I when I do some speaking sometimes, and that's oftentimes my message. One of the taglines that I love is, you're not less because of what you've experienced, you're more because of what you've learned from it. And that's a hard perspective to find, especially if you dealt with a lot of trauma, a lot of adversity. But it really is the greatest teacher. I mean, it's there's so much that can be learned, but it's really, really hard. And I hope, my biggest hope is, I know someone out there just lost a parent, someone out there just had a spinal injury. I know, someone out there is having a hard time professionally. Gosh, I just hope that people can see my life, and that's what would make it so meaningful, is if someone saw my life and said, I can keep going. Like, I don't want to take an exit strategy. My life is valuable. There's hope on the other side of this. Like, that would be the greatest, kind of pat on my back, just to know that that's out there. But, life's pretty hard. There's, it seems sometimes that it's not hard for some people, but I'd say that club of people it's hard for is pretty big. There's a lot of people that struggle in this life. And so, I don't know. I just want people to know that you're not in this alone, and there's hope on the other side of it.
Amen. Good stuff.
I'm usually not lost for words on stuff. I can always come up with something to say, but I can't, and Trey, that was one of the reasons why, like, I reached out to you, dude, is like, I respect so much because of the man you are, because of the shit that you've been through. And it's not a matter of what happens to you. It's a matter of how you deal with it. And so I respect how you've dealt with it, because there's so many other instances just in that club of hard knocks where it goes the completely other direction on stuff. And it takes a very, very non-egotistical, very sound individual to come out of a hole and be better than what they were at the beginning of it. And so, like, that's probably the perspective as to why the Honda boys are doing so good. Is it's not just so much you teaching what's on the motorcycle, but also teaching them life lessons and kind of being therapeutic about shit that's gone on.
Well, I appreciate it, man. It's I would say that, you're only as good as the people around you, and everything. I mean, everything takes a village of people to do. And so in my own life, there's been so many people that I've leaned on, in those moments where you want to throw your hands up and, say, why me? And there's been so many wonderful people that have been in my life that, that got me through those times, you know? Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have such wonderful people that didn't add to that woe is me thing, you know? So, yeah, I'm grateful for it, man. And I think I probably get maybe too much credit for my testing, you know? But I'm really happy to be a part of that group of people, you know, because I think that's what I want, you know. I really want to be a part of that community that we've built together, and I hope we can continue. You know, it's like these things only happen every once in a while, you know. So I hope we don't just get used to it, you know, like and just always expect it, because it's a privilege.
That's right.
Well, you're being too humble.
That's Trey, though. That's all Trey knows
Yeah,
how to
yeah.
be
He,
is
he
humble.
just said that he doesn't want the spotlight, you know.
Yeah.
And then we have like this new wave of people coming in, like the Deegans, you know, where it's all about spotlight, but it's a business spotlight where, like, talking with them, it's not really how they live life. Like, they're pretty quiet, but then when it comes to the racing, you know, it's like it's all flashy and showy because that's it. And like we talked earlier about the conversations between him and Joe, you know, in my perspective on it was there's a little bit of humbleness in there where, like, there's respect for both guys, where, you know, he's not really going to just completely kill Joe. And I believe Joe kind of knew that. And so they were able to play, because it is kind of more of an entertainment stuff. And maybe Trey has a different ideology on that, because he's actually closer to the middle of it. And I've only talking to one party versus, so, you know, there's that too. But it is different, the world we live in, where there's class, and then there's also flash, and it's this weird. I'm digressing. That's what I do, is I talk in circles. So,
That's all
but
good.
what's cool, Trey, is that, like, a lot of pros, right? They live in the best years of their life was 1999 when I was Supercross champion, or 2010 when I was Supercross champion, rather than that was just a page or a chapter. And I believe you're not looking like that. You know, you're just constantly moving forward, and the best is yet to happen. So
It's great stuff.
Yeah, I hope to progress, man. Like, you know, one of the you know, you're in the middle of it, being a dad, and how hard that is sometimes with toddlers. You know, like, oh, one of my biggest bummers is, like, man, my kid doesn't always see the best self. You know, like I really wanted to, like, be more of that for him and my daughter. But yeah, I hope to continue to progress. Like, I think it'd be easy to, like, look back on your career and just be like, man, that was the good old days. But I know there's just being a dad is, like, one of the most challenging and fun and rewarding things, and also, like, stressful things ever.
yeah.
So
is he gonna race?
I
Is little man gonna race?
don't know. I don't know. I feel a little bit like the chain smoking dad that's telling their kid not to smoke, you know, like, I've just got trophies and bikes hanging on the wall, and you know, I go to the races all the time, and
Yeah,
so it would
everybody
be
knows
hard to,
you.
like, yeah, it'd be hard not to do something. I really don't want to do the amateur thing. Like, I see the level that people have brought it to, and I think it's probably not good for kids in general, you know, at 8, 10 years old, to be living in another state, you know. It's like, that's probably not ideal developmentally, but I don't know, maybe we could do it in a different way, and have fun, and it might go well. I don't know.
Dude, I'm in the same boat, because, like, I was talking to Marvin, and Marvin, you know, is like, hell no, I'm not letting my kids race. But then yet he's got this little girl that's 2 years old that's, like, bombing ass down the hill on her Strider, that, you know, is just pure talent, you know. And so I just look at him and I'm like, good fucking luck, man.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I talk to everyone that's in it, you know, and I get different answers from all of them. You know, I talked to Timmy Ferry, who's just been a, you know, instrumental person in my life. And he's like, don't do it, man. Don't do it. 'Cause he's like in the middle of spending lots of money and doing that. And, you know, I talked to Shorty, who's got Hudson. He's like, absolutely, you know, do it 100%. And we have the best time. And, you know, so you get different perspectives, but, and I hope if we were to do it, we do it well and make sure that, you know, it's more about.
Yeah, I don't see you being a moto dad at all.
Yeah, my wife's pretty
and what I mean
competitive.
by
I don't know
that is the
we're doing.
demographic. Sorry, Trey, I cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. My wife is pretty competitive. That might be hard, you know. But
Okay, so maybe, you know, your wife will be the moto dad, but I don't see you the one out there like, you got your fucking ass kicked, like, you know, you get a walk home, blah blah blah. Like, yeah, like,
yeah,
you know, that's the thing is talking with Andrew. Andrew was very much like, I just stay back. I just kind of let him do his thing, and I'm not, you know, because I guess his dad was real hard on him. So he does the exact opposite, which is cool. So if it does happen, you're going to do it your guys' own way. Like my deal is I'm kind of want my kids to be mediocre, right? Because then if they're mediocre, then it's like, all right, we'll buy bikes, we'll ride them, we'll have fun, but it's not going to get to be this crazy, you know how it is. We're all consuming hard on relationships, gnarly injuries, that whole scenario.
Yeah, hopefully if we do it, we do it right, you know. You know, I definitely swing more towards, you know, how Shorty did. I talk to Dazzy about this sometimes. I'm like, man, I'm scared of being way too soft on my kid. And he's like, you gotta guide him, you know, you gotta be firm with him, and he's right. But I'm definitely more. I think if we were to race, just like, hey, dude, you know, as long as your technique's sound, I'm happy. You're doing it safe, you know.
Well, truthfully, I think that's like a pretty good point to just what's next for Trey. Like, what's are the Honda boys? Are they running the 2026s this year? Like, you know, what's up with you? Is there anything that you want to share? I know, hey, everybody that's watching this, Trey's got his own YouTube channel, and some of the shit is funny as hell. Like I said, I think some of it's actually quite dangerous with the goon riding because we talked about that before. But I mean, you know, what's your sign off, Trey?
Yeah, definitely. Hit me on the socials. You know, we're definitely trying to grow the YouTube. You know, I've got a little bit of a podcast going on that. Try to throw in some humor as well as some vlogs from testing and racing, and then I've tried to do a little bit as far as educationally. You know, even I had a video about clickers last week. Just little stuff like that. It's not gonna change your life, but you know, I don't know. I have fun with it, and I really enjoy it. So check me out. Trey Canard Official is the YouTube channel. Trey Canard on TikTok, and I'm trying to do TikTok. I'm terrible at it.
I hate TikTok.
X, all the things. You know, I open the TikTok app and my head kind of explodes. You know, it's like it's a lot to take in. But yeah, doing all the social things and yeah, give us a follow.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for having me on board. Till next time, everybody keep it WFO.